Yeah. I start that cat. Man down. Errol Spence Jr. The return. Yeah, we gon' talk about it right now. Hit the likes. We gon' move. We in this thing, bruh. Errol Spence Jr. Brand new report. He's back. Report Errol Spence Jr. versus Sebastian Fundora. They have agreed to a fight in October. And I told you, the best in the business is back, and it's not even close. Errol Spence Jr., Sebastian Fundora, wonderful fight. What did I tell y'all? What did I tell y'all? I know the haters is mad because I'm the best in the business and not even close. Terrence Crawford, when Errol went to the Tim Tszyu, Sebastian Fundora, Fundora pulled the quote-unquote upset, beating Tim Tszyu. Terrence Crawford, he went on social media and he said this: Errol Spence, sorry, buddy, you got to wait in line, sir. Then he said, Errol Spence, ninja, you look like a linebacker, my guy. Errol Spence, in response to Terrence Crawford saying he has to wait his turn. The reason he said that is because Crawford is the WBO super champion at welterweight, and he was going to move up to 54. With that WBO super champion comes the right to become an immediate mandatory if you move to the next division up. We've seen this happen for Usyk. That's how he got the 2 Anthony Joshua fights, because he was undisputed, just like Crawford undisputed at welterweight. Usyk was undisputed at cruiserweight, which is just underneath the heavyweight division. So when Usyk moved up to fight at the heavyweight division, he automatically became a mandatory shortly thereafter. He fought Joshua, beat him, and now he just beat Tyson Fury. Made videos about all this. So Crawford was under the impression that he was gonna get Fundora, who had just beaten Tim Tszyu. Errol Spence said, I don't know, champ. Definitely. I don't do lines. So again, you have Errol Spence responding, and we gonna clap back. We gonna clap back. Clapping back at Terrence Crawford, who told him, wait your turn, buddy. So I said in my caption, once again, Errol Spence Jr. has lived up to his nickname, and he told the quote, truth. When he responded to Terrence Crawford, who told him he had to wait because he was Fundora's mandatory, which I went over. And Champ said, I don't do lines. And here we are. So your boy Ego was right, and your man Errol Spence was right. Errol Spence is the truth, because it looks like he will be fighting next against Sebastian Fundora. Love the fight. Dangerous fight. Errol Spence is off of a bad loss to Terrence Crawford. ESPN has also reported this. Fundora Spence agreed to an October fight in Dallas. It's Dallas. So probably at the AT&T Stadium. Says PBC looks to stage the event AT&T Stadium, finalize this date if it fits into the Dallas Cowboys' home schedule, right? And I think it's a good fight. It's an immediate title opportunity for Errol Spence Jr. And he told you he wasn't waiting in line. And we're here. So his last fight wasn't his best performance, obviously. He lost to Terrence Crawford. And here's the thing. Terrence Crawford is fighting Madrimov at 154. Errol Spence probably should have moved up in weight before he did, because I don't like when guys keep complaining about the weight and then they just sit there at the weight. That's kind of what Errol Spence did. Teofimo did the same thing. He waited till he lost to Kambosos, and that win for Kambosos was good for him, but the loss for Teo, it hasn't really aged well, because Kambosos continued to lose after that point, right? So Teo should have, after the Lomachenko fight, you had already become unified. You should have just moved up to 140, but he stayed around too long, ended up losing to Kambosos. Same thing with Errol Spence Jr. Errol had been complaining about fighting in the welterweight, saying it was difficult, and he had been there since he was a teen, basically, and he stayed there, and then he waited till he lost to Crawford in order for him to do something about it. I'm a big advocate of being proactive as opposed to reactive. Now, Crawford had a great game plan that night. He was the better man. He won. Errol Spence is no longer going to be with Derek James. It looks like there's some friction there over money after that fight. So I am curious to see who Errol Spence is going to team up with. As of me recording the video, Errol has not said too much, but he definitely hasn't said anything about who he's going to be working with, who's his coach. So I'm very curious on that, because I don't even know at this stage of his career if they just, it's kind of like Triple G. Hell no, guys. Hey, Max is punches, guys. It's tick, tick, tick. Nah, it's not. Right? Triple G, the world kind of knew him for being with Abel Sanchez, and it was the end of an era, and they split for the same reason as Errol and Derek James: money. But everyone knew Triple G for being with Abel Sanchez, and I think that tandem kind of worked. Triple G, kind of a low-key dude, and Abel Sanchez would fill in the blanks in terms of, we got a backpack? Abel Sanchez would fill in the blanks for what Triple G lacked in, because Triple G is a big puncher and a great fighter, but he wasn't much of a talker. You know what I mean? So Abel Sanchez kind of did his talking. But end of an era, just like Derek James and Errol Spence is an end of an era. And Triple G, in his situation, he got with Jonathan Banks. And I don't think Triple G really looked the same with Jonathan Banks that he looked with Abel Sanchez. So I am curious to see how Errol Spence even fares and how he looks with a new trainer, and who that new trainer is going to be. Very curious. A lot of changes. But as far as the fight, Fundora, listen, he's the champion, but I think the fight was, I don't know. It's hard to explain. I'm not taking anything away from Fundora, but that Tim Tszyu cut changed a lot in that fight, in my honest opinion. That cut Tim Tszyu had, like, it's almost like the fight should have been stopped, and they just allowed it with blood profusely trickling down into Tszyu's face. I felt that was kind of unfair, and I felt it should have been stopped. But nonetheless, they let the fight continue, and Fundora won the fight, so he's the champion. I told you that Errol is going to get the fight before Terrence Crawford. It's not surprising. He's the PBC fighter with seniority. Terrence Crawford, I don't think, wanted to commit. He'd rather work with Turkey Al-Sheikh or Eddie Hearn or anybody other than PBC. And Al Heyman, despite his biggest paycheck, was likely from that Errol Spence fight. And PBC, I don't think they treated him bad. But, you know, it is what it is. Crawford has his next fight with Madrimov at 54, and Errol Spence versus Fundora at 54 in October. Let's go.